The Wolf Queen, Volume 2. From the pen of the 1st century 3rd era sage Montakai. Excuse me. 3E 82. A year after the wedding of his 14-year-old granddaughter to the Princess Potema to King Mantyarco of the Nordic Kingdom of Solitude, the Emperor Uriel Septim II passed on. His son Pelagius Septim II was made emperor, and he faced a greatly depleted treasury thanks to his father's poor management. As the new Queen of Solitude, Potema faced opposition from the old Nordic houses, who viewed her as an outsider. Mantyarco had been widowed, and his former queen was loved. She had left him a son, Prince Bethorg, who was 2 years older than his stepmother, and loved her not. But the king loved his queen, and suffered with her through miscarriage after miscarriage until her 29th year, where she bore him a son. 3E 97. "You must do something to help the pain," Potema cried, baring her teeth. The healer, Kelmuth, immediately thought of a she-wolf in labor, but he put the image from his mind. Her enemies called her the Wolf Queen, for certes, but not because of any physical resemblance. "Your Majesty, there is no injury for me to heal. The pain you feel is natural and helpful for the birth." He was going to add more words of consolation, but he had to break off to duck the mirror she flung at him. "I am not a pig-nosed peasant girl," she snarled. "I am the Queen of Solitude, daughter of the Emperor. Summon the Daedra. I'll trade the soul of every last subject of mine for a little comfort." "My lady," said the healer nervously, drawing the curtains and blotting out the cold morning sun. "It is not wise to make such offers, even in jest. The eyes of oblivion are forever watching us just for such a rash interjection." "What would you know of oblivion, healer?" He growled, but her voice was calmer, quieter. The pain had relaxed. "Would you fetch me that mirror I hurled at you?" "Are you going to throw it again, Your Majesty?" said the healer with a taut smile, obeying her. "Very likely," she said, looking at her reflection, "and next time I won't miss. But I do look a fright. Is Lord Vulcan still waiting for me in the hall?" "Yes, Your Majesty." "Well, tell him I just need to fix my hair and I'll be with him. And leave us. I'll howl for you when the pain returns." "Yes, Your Majesty." A few minutes later, Lord Vulcan was shown into the chamber. He was an enormous, bald man, whom friends and enemies called Mount Vulcan, and when he spoke it was with the low rumble of thunder. The Queen was one of the very few people Vulcan knew who was not the least bit intimidated by him, and he offered her a smile. "My Queen, how are you feeling?" he asked. "Damned. But you're looking like spring tide has come to Mount Vulcan. I take it from your merry disposition that you've been made war chief?" "Only temporarily, while your husband the king investigates whether there's evidence behind the rumors of treason on the part of the predecessor, Lord Thone." "If you've planted it, as I've instructed, he'll find it." Potema smiled, propping herself up in the bed. "Tell me, is Prince Bathorg still in the city?" "What a question, Your Highness," laughed the mountain. "It's the tournament of stamina today. You know the prince would never miss that. The fellow invents new strategies of self-defense every year to show off during the games. Don't you recall last year, where he entered the ring unarmored and after 20 minutes of fending off 6 bladesmen left the games without a scratch? He dedicated that bout to his late mother, Queen Amodeka." "Yes, I recall." "He's no friend to me, or you, Your Highness, but you must give the man his due respect. He moves like lightning. You wouldn't think it of him, but he always seems to use his awkwardness to his advantage, to throw his opponents off. Some say he learned the style from the orcs to the south. They say he learned from them how to anticipate a foe's attack by some sort of supernatural power." "There's nothing supernatural about it," said the Queen quietly. "Gets it from his father." "Mantyarco never moved like that," Vulcan chuckled. "I never said he did," said Potema, her eyes closed and her teeth gritted together. "The pain's returning. You must fetch the healer, but first I must ask you one other thing. Has the new summer palace construction begun?" "I think so, Your Highness. Do not think, she cried, gripping the sheets, biting her lips so a stream of blood dripped down her chin. Do make certain that the construction begins at once, today. Your future, my future, and the future of this child depend on it. 4 hours later, King Montiarco entered the room to see his son. His queen smiled weakly as he gave her a kiss on the forehead. When she handed him the child, a tear ran down his face. Another one quickly followed, and then another. "Lord," he said fondly, "I know you're sentimental, but really, it's not only the child, though he is beautiful with all the fair features of his mother." Montiarco turned to his wife, sadly, his aged features twisted in agony. "My dear wife, the palace. In truth, this birth is the only thing that keeps this day from being the darkest in my reign." "What is it?" "Something at the tournament?" Fatima pulled herself up in bed. "Something with Bathorg?" "No, it isn't the tournament, but it does relate to Bathorg. I shouldn't worry you at a time like this. You need your rest." "My husband, tell me." "I wanted to surprise you with a gift after the birth of our child, so I had the old summer palace completely renovated. It's a beautiful place, or at least it was. I thought you might like it." Truth to tell, it was Lord Voken's idea. It used to be Amadetha's favorite place. Bitterness crept into the king's voice. "Now I've learned why." "What have you learned?" asked Fatima quietly. "Amadetha deceived me there, with my trusted war chief, Lord Thone. There were letters between them, the most perverse things you've ever read, and that's not the worst of it." "No?" "The dates on the letters correspond with the time of Bathorg's birth. The boy I raised and loved as a son." Montiarco's voice choked up with emotion. "He was Thone's child, not mine." "My darling," said Fatima, almost feeling sorry for the old man. She wrapped her arms around his neck as he heaved his sobs down on her and their child. "Henceforth," he said quietly, "Bathorg is no longer my heir. He will be banished from the kingdom. The child you have borne me today will grow to rule Solitude." "And perhaps more," said Fatima. "He is the Emperor's grandson as well." "We will name him Montiarco II." "My darling, I would love that," said Fatima, kissing the king's tear-streaked face. "But may I suggest Uriel, after my grandfather, the emperor who brought us together in marriage?" King Montiarco smiled at his wife and nodded his head. There was a knock at the door. "My liege," said Mount Vocan. "His Highness Prince let me do the voice. My liege," said Mount Vocan. "His Highness Prince Bathorg has finished the tournament and awaits you to present his award. He has successfully withstood attacks by 9 archers and the giant scorpion we brought in from Hammerfell. The crowd is roaring his name. They are calling him the man who cannot be hit." "I will see him," said King Montiarco sadly, and left the chamber. "Oh, he can be hit all right," said Fatima wearily. "But it does take some doing." The Wolf Queen, Volume 3. 398. The Emperor Pelagius, Septim II, died a few weeks before the end of the year, on the 15th of Evening Star during the festival of North Wind's Prayer, which was considered a bad omen for the empire. He had ruled over a difficult 17 years. In order to fill the bankrupt treasury, Pelagius had dismissed the Elder Council, forcing them to buy back their positions. Several good but poor councillors had been lost. Many say the emperor had died as a result of being poisoned by a vengeful former council member. His children came to attend his funeral and the coronation of the next emperor. His youngest son, Prince Magnus, 19 years old, arrived from Almalexia, where he had been a councillor to the royal court. 21-year-old Prince Sepphoris arrived from Ghislaine with his Redguard bride, Queen Bianchi. Prince Antiochus, at 43 years of age, the eldest child and heir presumptive, had been with his father in the imperial city. The last to appear was his only daughter, Fatima, the so-called Wolf Queen of Solitude. 30 years old and radiantly beautiful, he arrived with a magnificent entourage. accompanied by her husband, the elderly king Mantyrico, and her year-old son Uriel. All expected Antiochus to assume the throne of the empire, but no one knew what to expect from the Wolf Queen. 3E99. Lord Voken has been bringing several men to your sister's chambers late at night, every night this week, offered the spymaster. Perhaps if her husband were made aware. My sister is a devotee of the conqueror gods Remon and Talos, not the love goddess Dibella. She's plotting with those men, not having orgies with them. I'd wager I've slept with more men than she has, laughed Antiochus, and then grew serious. She's behind the delay of the council offering me the crown. I know it. 6 weeks now. They say they need to update records and prepare for the coronation. I'm the emperor. Crown me, and to oblivion with the formalities. Your sister is surely no friend of yours, your majesty, but there are other factors at play. Do not forget how your father treated the council. It is they who need following, and if need be, strong convincing, the spymaster added with a suggestive stab of his dagger. Do so, but keep your eye on the damnable Wolf Queen as well. You know where to find me. At which brothel, your highness? Inquired the spymaster. Today being Fredas, I'll be at the Cat and Goblet. The spymaster noted in his report that night that Queen Potema had no visitors, for she was dining across the imperial garden, the Blue Palace, with her mother, the Dowager Empress Quintilla. It was a warm night for wintertide, and surprisingly cloudless, though the day had been stormy. Saturated ground could not take any more, so the formal structural gardens looked as if they had been glazed with water. 2 women took their wine to the wide balcony to look over the grounds. I believe you are trying to sabotage your half-brother's coronation, said Quintilla, not looking at her daughter. Potema saw how the years had not so much wrinkled her mother as faded her, like the sun on a stone. It's not true, said Potema, but would it bother you very much if it were true? Antiochus is not my son. He was 11 years old when I married your father, and we've never been close. I think that being heir presumptive has stunted his growth. He is old enough to have a family with grown children, and yet he spends all his time at debauchery and fornication. He will not make a very good emperor. Quintilla sighed, and then turned to Potema. But it is bad for the family, for seeds of discontent to be sown. It is easy to divide up into factions, but very difficult to unite again. I fear for the future of the empire. Those sound like the words. Are you, by any chance, dying, Mother? I've read the omens, said Quintilla with a faint, ironic smile. Don't forget, I was a renowned sorceress in Camelot. I will be dead in a few months' time, and then, not a year later, your husband will die. I only regret that I will not live to see your child Uriel assume the throne of solitude. Have you seen whether... Potema stopped, not wanting to reveal too many of her plans, even to a dying woman. Whether he will be emperor? I know the answer to that too, daughter. Don't fear. You will live to see the answer one way or the other. I have a gift for him when he is of age. The Dowager Empress removed a necklace with a single great yellow gem from around her neck. It is a soul gem, infused with the spirit of a great werewolf your father and I defeated in battle 36 years ago. I have enchanted it with spells from the School of Illusion, so its wearer may charm whoever he chooses. An important skill for a king. And an emperor, said Potema, taking the necklace. Thank you, Mother. An hour later, passing the black branches of a sculpted duad shrubs, Potema noticed a dark figure, which vanished into the shadows under the eaves of her approach. She had noticed people following her before. It was one of the hazards of life in the imperial court, but this man was too close to her chambers. She slipped the necklace around her neck. Come out where I can see you, she commanded. The man emerged from the shadows, a dark little fellow of middle age, dressed in black-dyed goatskin. His eyes were fixed, frozen, under her spell. Who do you work for? Prince Antiochus is my master, he said in a dead voice. I am his spy. A plan formed. Is the prince in his study? No, milady. Then have you access? Yes, milady. Potema smiled widely. She had him. Lead the way. The next morning the storm reappeared in all its fury. Pelting on the walls and ceiling was agony to Antiochus, who was discovering that he no longer had his youthful immunity to a late night of hard drinking. He shoved hard against the Argonian wench sharing his bed. "Make yourself useful and close the window." No sooner had the window been bolted than there was a knock at the door. It was the spy master. He smiled at the prince and handed him a sheet of paper. "What is this?" said Antiochus, squinting his eyes. "He must still be drunk. It looks like Orcish." "I think you will find it useful, your majesty. Your sister is here to see you." Antiochus considered getting dressed or sending his bedmaid out, but thought better of it. "Show her in. Let her be scandalized." If Potema was scandalized, she did not show it. Swathed in orange and silver silk, she entered the room with a triumphant smile, followed by the man-mountain, Lord Vocan. "Dear brother, I spoke to my mother last night, and she advised me very wisely. She said I should not battle with you in public for the good of the family and the empire. Therefore," he said, producing from the folds of her robe a piece of paper, "I am offering you a choice." "A choice?" said Antiochus, returning her smile. "That does sound friendly." "Abdicate your rights to the imperial throne voluntarily, and there is no need for me to show the council this," Potema said, handing her brother the letter. "It is a letter with your seal on it, saying that you knew that your father was not Pelagius Septim II, but the royal steward, Fonducht. Now, before you deny writing the letter, you cannot deny the rumors, nor that the Imperial Council will believe that your father, the old fool, was quite capable of being cuckolded, whether it's true or not, or whether the letter is a forgery or not. The scandal of it would ruin your chances of being the emperor." Antiochus's face had gone white with fury. "Don't fear, brother," said Potema, taking back the letter from his shaking hands. "I will see to it that you have a very comfortable life, and all the whores your heart or any other organ desires." Suddenly Antiochus laughed. He looked over at his spymaster and winked. "I remember when you broke into my stash of Cogiti Erotica and blackmailed me. That was close to 20 years ago. We've got better locks now, you must have noticed. It must have killed you that you couldn't use your own skills to get what you wanted." Potema merely smiled. It didn't matter. She had him. "You must have charmed my servant here into getting you into my study to use my seal." Antiochus smirked. "A spell, perhaps? From your mother, the witch?" Potema continued to smile. Her brother was cleverer than she thought. "Did you know that charm spells, even powerful ones, only last so long?" "Of course you didn't. You never were one for magic. Let me tell you, a generous salary is a stronger motivation for keeping a servant in the long run, sister." Antiochus took out his own sheet of paper. "Now I have a choice for you." "What is that?" said Potema, her smile faltering. "It looks like nonsense, but if you know what you're looking for, it's very clear. It's a practice sheet. Your handwriting attempting to look like my handwriting. It's a good gift you have. I wonder if you haven't done this before, imitating other person's handwriting. I understand a letter was found from your husband's dead wife saying that his first son was a bastard. I wonder if you wrote that letter. I wonder if I showed this evidence of your gift to your husband, whether he would believe you wrote that letter. In the future, dear wolf queen, don't lay the same trap twice." Potema shook her head, furious, unable to speak. "Give me your forgery and go take a walk in the rain. And then, later today, unhatch whatever plots you have to keep me from the throne." Antiochus fixed his eyes on Potema's. "I will be emperor, wolf queen. Now, go." Potema handed her brother the letter and left the room. For a few moments out in the hallway she said nothing. She merely glared at the slivers of rainwater dripping down the marble wall from a tiny, unseen crack. "Yes, you will, brother," she said, "but not for very long." The Wolf Queen, Volume 4. 3E109. 10 years after being crowned Emperor of Tamriel, Antiochus Septim had impressed his subjects with little but the enormity of his lust for carnal pleasures. By his second wife, Gisela, he had a daughter in the year 104, who he named Kintira, after his great-great-great-grand-aunt, the Empress. Enormously fat and marked by every venereal disease known to the healers, Antiochus spent little time on politics. His siblings, by marked contrast, excelled in this field. Magnus had married Helena, the Cyrodiil queen of Lilmoth, the Argonian priest-king having been executed, and was representing the imperial interests in Blackmarsh admirably. Sepphoris and his wife Bianchi were ruling the Hammerfell kingdom of Ghislaine with a healthy brood of children, but no one was more politically active than Potema, the wolf queen of the Skyrim kingdom of Solitude. 9 years after the death of her husband, King Mentyarco, Potema still ruled as regent for her young son Uriel. Their court had become very fashionable, particularly for rulers who had a grudge to bear against the emperor. All the kings of Skyrim visited Castle Solitude regularly, and over the years emissaries from the lands of Morrowind and High Rock did as well. Some guests came from even further away. 3E110. Potema stood at the harbor and watched the boat from Pyandonia arrive. Against the grey, breaking waves where she had seen so many vessels of Tamrielic manufacture, it looked less than exotic. Insectoid, certainly, with its membranous sails and rugged chitin hull, but she had seen similar, if not identical, seacraft in Morrowind. No, if not for the flag, which was markedly alien, she would not have picked out the ship from others in the harbor. As the salty mist ballooned around her, she held out her hand in welcome to the visitors from another island empire. The men aboard were not merely pale, they were entirely colorless, as if their flesh was made of some white, limpid jelly, but she had been forewarned. At the arrival of the king and his translator, she looked directly at their blank eyes and offered her hand. The king made noises. "His great majesty, King Orgnum," said the translator haltingly, "expresses his delight at your beauty. He thanks you for giving him refuge from those dangerous seas." "You speak Cyrodiilic very well," said Potema. "I am fluent in the languages of 4 continents," said the translator. "I can speak to the denizens of my own country, Pyandonia, as well as those of Atmor, Akavir, and here in Tamriel. Yours is the easiest. Actually, I was looking forward to this voyage." "Please tell His Highness that he is welcome here, and that I am entirely at his disposal," said Potema, smiling. Then she added, "You understand the context? That I am simply being polite?" "Of course," said the translator, and then made several noises at the king, which the king reacted to with a smile. While they conversed, Potema looked up at the dock and saw the now familiar grey cloaks watching her while they spoke with Levlet, Antiochus's man. "The Sigic order from the Somerset Isle. Very bothersome." "My diplomatic emissary, Lord Voken, will show you to your rooms," said Potema. "Unfortunately, I have some other guests as well who require my attention. I hope your majesty understands." His great majesty King Orgnum did understand, and Potema made arrangements to dine with the Pyandonians that evening. Meeting with the Sigic order required all of her concentration. She dressed in her simplest black and gold robe and went to her stateroom to prepare. Her son Uriel was on the throne, playing with his pet Jugat. "Good morning, Mom." "Good morning, darling," said Potema, lifting her son up into the air with feigned strain. "Talos, but you're heavy. I don't think I've ever carried such a heavy 10-year-old. "That's probably because I'm 11, said Uriel, perfectly aware of his mother's tricks. "And you're going to say that as an 11-year-old, I should probably be with my tutor." "I was fanatical about studying at your age," said Potema. "I am king," said Uriel petulantly. "But don't be satisfied with that," said Potema. "By all rights, you should be emperor already. You understand that, don't you?" Uriel nodded his head. Potema took a moment to marvel at the likeness to the portraits of Tiber Septim. The same ruthless brow and powerful chin. When he was older and lost his baby fat, he'd be a spitting image of his great-great-great-great-great-granduncle. Behind her she heard a door opening and an usher bringing in several grey cloaks. She stiffened slightly, and Uriel, on cue, jumped down from the throne and left the stateroom, pausing to greet the most important of his Sigics. "Good morning, Master Celeris," she said, enunciating each syllable with a regal accent that made Potema's heart soar. "I hope your accommodations at Castle Solitude meet with your approval." "They do. King Uriel, thank you," said Celeris, delighted and charmed. Wait a minute. Oh, sorry, I got it wrong. It wasn't her. "Good morning, Master Celeris," he said, enunciating each syllable with a regal accent that made Potema's heart soar. "I hope your accommodations at Castle Solitude meet with your approval." "They do, King Uriel, thank you," said Celeris, delighted and charmed. Celeris and his Sijics entered the chamber, and the door was shut behind them. Potema sat only for a moment on the throne before stepping off the dais. I always say that wrong. And greeting her guests. "I'm sorry to have kept you waiting," said Potema. "To think that you sailed all the way from the Somerset Isles, and I should keep you waiting any longer. You must forgive me." "It's not all that long a voyage," said one of the grey cloaks angrily. "It isn't as though we sailed all the way from Pyandonia." "Ah, you've seen my most recent guests, King Orkney and his retinue," said Potema breezily. "I suppose you think it unusual, me entertaining them, as we all know the Pyandonians mean to invade Tamriel. You are, I take it, as neutral in this as you are in all political matters?" "Of course," said Celeris proudly. "We have nothing to gain or lose by the invasion. Sijic order preceded the organization of Tamriel under the Septim dynasty, and we shall survive under any political regime." "Rather like a flea on whatever mongrel happens along, are you?" said Potema, narrowing her eyes. "Don't overestimate your importance, Celeris. Your order's child, the Mages Guild, has twice the power you have, and they are entirely on my side. We are in the process of making an agreement with King Orkney. When the Pyandonians take over, and I am in my proper place as Empress on this continent, then you shall know your proper place in the order of things." With a majestic stride, Potema left the stateroom, leaving the grey cloaks to look from one to the other. "We must speak to Lord Levelet," said one of the grey cloaks. "Yes," said Celeris, "perhaps we should." Levelet was quickly found at his usual place at the Moon and Nausea Tavern. As the three grey cloaks entered, led by Celeris, the smoke and the noise seemed to die in their path. Even the smell of tobacco and flint dissipated in their wake. He rose, and then escorted them to a small room upstairs. "You've reconsidered," said Levelet, with a broad smile. "Your Emperor," said Celeris, and then corrected himself. "Our Emperor originally asked for our support in defending the west coast of Tamriel from the Pyandonian fleet, in return for 12 million gold pieces. We offered our services at 50. Upon reflection on the dangers that a Pyandonian invasion would have, we accept his earlier offer. The Mages Guild has generously, perhaps for as low as 10 million gold pieces," said Celeris quickly. Over the course of dinner, Potema promised King Orkney, through the interpreter, to lead an insurrection against her brother. She was delighted to discover that her capacity for lying worked on many different cultures. Potema shared her bed that night with King Orkney, as it seemed the polite and diplomatic thing to do. As it turned out, he was one of the better lovers she had ever had. He gave her some herbs before beginning that made her feel as if she were floating on the surface of time, conscious only of the gestures of love after she'd found herself making them. She felt herself like the cooling mist, quenching the fire of his lust over and over and over again. In the morning, when he kissed her on the cheek and said with his bald, white eyes that he was leaving her, she felt a stab of regret. The ship left harbour that morning, en route to the Somerset Isles and the imminent invasions. She waved them off to sea as the footsteps behind her. I think it was supposed to be she heard footsteps behind her. It was Levelet. "They will do it for 8 million, Your Highness," he said. "Thank Mara," said Potema. "I need more time for an insurrection. Pay them from my treasury, and then go to the Imperial City and get the 12 million from Antiochus. We should make a good profit from this game, and you, of course, will have your share." 3 months later, Potema heard that the fleet of the Pyandonians had been utterly destroyed by a storm that appeared suddenly off the Isle of Artaeum, the home port of the Sijic Order. King Orkney and all of his ships had been utterly annihilated. "Sometimes making people hate you," she said, holding her son Uriel close. is how you make a profit. Okay. Okay, let's activate another Legacy of the Dragonborn thing. See if I can find it. Started. Deep home. Price of vigilance. Huh. Automatic start. Weird. Okay. I know I've done all of that. Huh. Alright. The price of oh, okay, I can't do either of them. Let me see if I need to go somewhere or do something. Oh, okay, I have to wait until the Vaults of Deep Home are done, and then that will automatically start. Alright. Cool. Alright, let's go do Ognar's Kegbreaker. I find this kind of cringe, but we might as well. Not their best work. Hey, gigantic dwarven butt.
Come on in. Let me know if you need anything. Or take a seat by the fire and I'll send someone over.
Hey, Makala. Yeah? Okay.
Hello? Hey, what's that?
Don't you think you've had enough?
Enough? What are you talking about? This is my first one.
You look like you're 3 sheets to the wind, my friend.
What, me? No, really. This is my first drink. It's this damn hammer's fault.
Now I know you're drunk.
I know. It sounds crazy, doesn't it? I can't explain it, but whenever I use this hammer, I end up feeling, well, hammered.
Okay, I'm gonna turn the sound up for this. Legacy of the Dragonborn, their sound levels are... I can't hear him. And then as soon as I turn it up, he's gonna yell at me, no doubt. Okay.
The more I use it, the drunker I feel. Last week, I got jumped by some bandits, fended them off, but woke up here in the inn.
Why don't you just stop using it?
Stop using the hammer, you say? Well, that would make sense now, wouldn't it? Problem is, this old girl and I have been through quite a lot together, and I've never been able to find a fitting replacement for her.
I have no idea which accent this is supposed to be. None. What if I gave you a replacement?
Well, sure. If you happen upon a nice looking hammer, I could give her up. It would have to be something special, though. And if you do, I could see fit to give my old hammer to you in compensation. Sound like a deal?
Sounds good to me.
Fantastic. You might check out the smiths in Whiterun, Solitude, or Windhelm. They'd be likely to have something fitting, perhaps. I'll be here.
Okay, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to load one. Come on now, just, okay.
You find a good replacement for old Cake Breaker yet? You find a good replacement for old
God,
Cake
okay.
Breaker yet? You find a good replacement for old Cake Breaker yet? You find a good replacement
Please, sir,
for old
please
Cake Breaker
stop talking to me. Ugh. Oh, okay. Okay. I need a Horker Tusk Hammer. And I kind of hate this quest. I don't know why they did this.
You find a good
Shut
replacement for
up.
old Cake Breaker yet?
I've got a new hammer for you.
Ah, so you have. Let's have a look then. Well, she's quite the beauty. Nice work. Yes, I think this'll do quite nicely. Well, here you go then, as promised. I entrust you with Cake Breaker. Please just do me a favor and take good care of her.
Sure.
Oh, and a word of advice. Don't be using her too much in one go. Or you're bound to end up waking up in an inn somewhere, forgetting your name and not wearing any pants. Thanks again.
Alright. It's over. I have avoided that man. Oy. Alright.
Yes?
Find something else to do. I might as well just go now. Get it over with. Yeah, I'm one of those people that doesn't really laugh at like drunk jokes. Part of it is because I grew up in a family of alcoholics, so all of my brain just has, terrible associations with drunkenness and doesn't really find it funny. And I also don't particularly laugh at fart jokes. And it's not that like this stuff is too low brow or anything for me. It's just like it's such low hanging lazy fruit. Just work a little harder at being entertaining, please. Oh, this is new. This is the Gates of Hroll. No, the Oriel's Way Shrine, which I created with a ridiculous number of fragments. Many great works were built by the Snow Elven people in order to honor Oriel, such as the Gate Shrines, which allowed them to transport themselves across their realm, or the Chantry of Oriel itself. They also erected a number of roadside way shrines in his honor, such as this example. Clergy of Oriel would often travel the roads on foot between the shrines to give the blessings and collect any offerings left at the shrines to be put to use for the betterment of the people. Sadly, all but this example have been seemingly lost to time, looters, and the elements. So they dressed it up with little items, and I like it. That's good. So yes, Legacy of the Dragonborn, please, please, please hire a voice actor like you did with Orion. He's amazing. But when you and just your buddies are like, I can do a Canadian Scottish drunken voice, maybe don't listen to them.
Do you have a question?
Tori, I wanted to thank you for all your kind words the other day.
What can you tell me about this peculiar hammer?
Oh my, this hammer. Yes, I do believe what we have here is the lost relic of the Daedric Prince Sanguine.
No wonder I hated
There are
it.
very few tales about the hammer, also known as the Inebriator, but the peculiar intoxication enchantment fits his motives perfectly. A fantastic find, my friend. I'll set a place for it in the Daedric Gallery where you can display it. Until we
Okay.
meet again.
Figure out how to deal with it.
Okay, I can hear everybody else fine. Maybe that recorded bit was just recorded. Mace
Mind you,
of
Stan.
Avar Stosinger.
I'll bet some of these artifacts would fetch a good price.
So this is filling in. There's still something empty. Maybe I'll get there. Maybe it's deep home. I don't know.
I'm not sure what this is all about.
Why the fuck are you lugging all that shit around with you?
Oh,
Maybe you could
baby.
lighten the load and sell some of it.
Okay, so I believe the Daedric Gallery is up here. Yeah? Yeah, no. No, it's the,
This collection
east.
is the envy of artifact collectors everywhere.
Yeah. This is cool. I really like this.
Normally, I'd say all the inlays.
I wish I'd known. I wish that these were labeled so I could tell you where they were from.
Been a pretty good day, not gonna lie.
Good. All right. I lack the required item. Oh, the paintings are filling in pretty well. Okay, it's probably in the East Exhibit Halls, huh? Go do that. Ah! Ah! Don't actually look at the exhibits much. Oh, wow. Ah, the Ideal Masters. Okay, yeah, okay, here's the Daedric Hall. Anything? Alright. Where, my friends? Where? Oh, yeah, I haven't done Bitter Cup yet. It's very narrow up here, so I don't have much space. Cast Cleaver, Poach Shadows. Spear of Bitter Mercy. Eee. Keg Breaker. Okay. Here stands the lost relic of Sanguine, Kegbreaker, also known as the Inebriator. Though bent on the corruption of the living at their own hand, Sanguine forged the hammer and gifted it as a prize to those who won his depraved games. Ultimately, the hammer's use will result in the user being hopelessly inebriated. A victory for Sanguine in the end.
Fuck me, this museum is big.
Okay, so that, yeah, it's kind of a narrow walkway back there to try to look at the other stuff. But, okay. Alrighty. I did it. I hate doing it. And I phoned it in. But I did it. Okay. Heartwood Mill. Speak to Grosta. Okay. Alright, let me look up Heartwood Mill. Alright. That's Lake Inanalta. I need Lake Hunter, right? It should be close to Felder's Tooth, I believe. Oh, okay. No, I'm alright. Yeah, it's about there. Okay, where is the mill? Okay, it looks like there's maybe a carriage stop over here. Sorry, you are no longer scary. Where? Okay, there we go. Hello? Hi! What am I looting? I thought you were baby chicks. Oh no, it was chicken's eggs. Okay, wow. I wanted to say hi to baby chicks. Oh well.
It's just me and my mother at the mill here. My father is gone. We don't know what happened to him.
I'm gonna try to help, honey.
Here for work? Get an axe and bring me all the wood you can chop. If you see...
Okay. Oh my god. It wanted me to lockpick my way out.
Yeah?
Is running a mill difficult?
With just myself and one child, it's damn near impossible. With Leifnar gone, it's really put me in a terrible bind. I'm having trouble making ends meet. At this rate, we won't last more than a few more seasons at best. Then I'll just have to sell the old place.
What happened to Leifnar?
He said he was going east towards the border of Morrowind to trade some of our grain to some folks at Broken Helm Hollow. I waited and waited, and he never came back. Probably shacked up with some elven whore. Good riddance to him, I say. If I only knew where he was, I'd sure give him a piece of my mind.
Yeah, I know where he is. I'll try to find him. I know exactly where you're...
If you see him, tell him Grosta said he could go straight to Oblivion. He's not welcome here anymore.
Wow, honey. Why did Leifnar go to Broken Helm Hollow?
Well, he said that a few men have been going by to some of the local farms, promising a good price from all the local mills and farms. Leifnar said they'd pay double what you can usually get at the markets. The catch was, he had to head out there with our wood. So not only is Leifnar gone, but a good bit of our supplies as well.
Okay. Yeah, Broken Helm Hollow. I know the place. I know where it is. I don't know if this game has sent me in.
Remember to tell that bastard I never want to see his ugly face
You don't...
again.
Yeah, stop. Yeah, we've cleared it, but there is like a note in a hidden room. If you start without doing the Guildmaster origin, and when you start to become the Guildmaster, they will send you to Broken Helm Hall. Wait, I didn't start as the... Okay. Yeah, we've already been in here. We should have already gotten the notice.
Trouble?
I'm not really sure what the deal is. Maybe we didn't pick up or read the note on his body? Maybe I have to see his body after getting the quest. Okay, are you the bad guy? Okay. I want to make sure I'm not hacking up. Eric.
I cannot best you. You won't get the best. I cannot.
Yep. Floofy bear. You gotta. Rude. Yeah, it's weird. I should already have the quest, so I don't know. Pretty. Pretty. At least I know where he is.
I don't think I like where this is going.
Oh wow, okay. Since they're sleeping, this is a good place to come and feed your baby vampires.
You picked up.
You just wander in, the bandits are always sleeping.
Thought I heard something.
Son of a bitch, I'm coming.
And you can eat them. Yeah, this is where we came to get the 6.
Killing bandits and avoiding puppets of their piss.
Ugh. Yeah, Leifnar. I don't... Okay, so... Okay, I had to find him.
Don't get too
have
far
the quest. I don't know why my weapon is not charging. Oh. I don't have any soul gems? Oh, that's right. I stored all my soul gems. Alright. Okay.
So, I'm curious. Do you, ever burn yourself with those flames of yours? And let you burn me anytime. Wait, no. Bad kind. Bad kind. Very bad.
Yeah, I thought there was like a note on his body, but... maybe that got patched badly, I don't know.
Badly cool.
Yeah, once I heard the name Broken Helm Hollow, I'm like, nothing good ever happens in that place.
It's just me and my mother at the mill here. My father is gone. We don't know what happened to him.
Hey.
I'm telling you, I heard it. Howling. Those werewolf tales are true.
Sure. Gosh. I did not know there were werewolves in Skyrim.
Here for work? Get an axe and bring me all the wood you can chop.
I found Leithnar's body.
No, it can't be. Oh my. And all this time I was thinking he'd been unfaithful to me. I feel so stupid. I've been a fool, wasting my time sitting here helpless when I could have sent help sooner. Perhaps this is all my doing. What's done is done. Here, I want you to have this. Bringing me closure was kind of you.
Don't exactly smell good either.
Drop by and see us again if you're ever in the area.
None of them seem to know what soap is.
Right.
It's a bummer I missed that conversation, guys. Talking about bandit piss is really important, huh? That's the theme of the day? Okay. Find a nice spot to sit by the water and read more about Potema. The Wolf Queen, Volume 5. Oh wow, I don't have 6. From the pen of Inzolicus, 2nd century sage and study of Mordecai. 3E 119. For 21 years, the Emperor Antiochus Septim ruled Tamriel and proved an able leader despite his moral laxity. His greatest victory was in the War of the Isle of the year 110. When the Imperial fleet and the royal navies of Somerset Isle, together with the magical powers of the Sigic Order, succeeded in destroying the Pyandonian invading armada. His siblings, King Magnus of Lilmoth, King Sepphoris of Ghislaine, and Potema, the Wolf Queen of Solitude, ruled well, and relations between the Empire and the kingdoms of Tamriel were much improved. Still, centuries of neglect had not repaired all the scars that existed between the Empire and the kings of High Rock and Skyrim. During a rare visitation from his sister and nephew Uriel, Antiochus, who had suffered from several illnesses over his reign, lapsed into a coma. For months he lingered in between life and death while the Elder Council prepared for the ascension of his 15-year-old daughter, Kintira, bless me, to the throne. 3E 120. Mother, I can't marry Kantira, said Uriel, more amused by the suggestion than offended. She's my first cousin, and besides, I believe she's engaged to one of the lords of the council, Modelis. You're so squeamish. There's a time and a place for propriety, said Potema, but you're correct in any rate about Modelis, and we shouldn't offend the Elder Council at this critical juncture. How do you feel about Princess Rachma? You spend a good deal of time in her company at Baron. She's all right, said Uriel. Don't tell me you want to hear all the dirty details. Please, spare me your study of her anatomy, Potema grimaced. But would you marry her? I suppose so. Good. I'll make the arrangements then. Potema made a note for herself before continuing. King Guillermo has been a difficult ally to keep, and a political marriage should keep Farron on our side. Should we need them? When is the funeral? What funeral? Asked Uriel. You mean for Uncle Antiochus? Of course, sighed Potema. Anyone else of note die recently? There are a bunch of little Redguard children running through the hall, so I guess Sepphoris has arrived. Magnus arrived at court yesterday, so it ought to be any day now. Oh, he's not a kid anymore, right? Okay, he's not 10. I'll start speaking like he's, a young adult. It's time to address the council then, said Potema, smiling. She dressed in black, not her usual colorful ensembles. It was important to look the part of the grieving sister. Regarding herself in the mirror, she felt that she looked all of her 53 years. A shock of silver wound its way through. Yeah, her son's 23. Wait, what? Yeah. No. Yes? Okay, if I remember back, when she was 30, he was 1 year old. Or was it? Okay. I'm going to assume he's in his late teens, so probably 23. A shock of silver wound its way through her auburn hair. The long, cold, dry winters of northern Skyrim had created a map of wrinkles, thin as a spider web, all across her face. Still, she knew that when she smiled, she could win hearts, and when she frowned, she could inspire fear. It was enough for her purposes. Potema's speech to the Elder Council is perhaps helpful to students of public speaking. She began with flattery and self-abasement. My most august and wise friends, members of the Elder Council, I am but a provincial queen, and I can only assume to bring to issue what you yourselves must have already pondered. She continued on to praise the late emperor, who had been a popular ruler, despite his flaws. He was a true septum and a great warrior, destroying, with your counsel, the near-invincible armada of Pyandonia. Hold on. Yeah, Pyandonia. But little time was wasted before she came to her point. The Empress Gisela unfortunately did nothing to temper my brother's lustful spirits. In point in fact, no whore in the slums of the city spread out on more beds than she. Had she attended to her duties in the imperial bedchamber more faithfully, we would have a true heir to the empire, not the half-wit milksop bastards who call themselves the emperor's children. The girl called Kantira is popularly believed to be the daughter of Gisela and the captain of the guard. It may be that she is the daughter of Gisela and the boy who cleans the cistern. We can never know for certain. Not as certainly as we can know the lineage of my son, Uriel, the eldest true son of the Septim dynasty. My lords, the princes of the empire will not stand for a bastard on the throne, and I can assure you. She ended mildly, but with a call to action. Posterity will judge you. You know what must be done. That evening, Potema entertained her brothers and their wives in the map room, her favorite of the imperial dining chambers. The walls were splashed with bright, if fading, representations of the empire and all the known lands beyond. Atmora, Yokuda, Akavir, Pyandonia, Thra. Overhead, the great glass domed ceiling, wet with rain, displayed distorted images of the stars overhead. Lightning flashed every other minute, casting strange phantom shadows on the walls. When will you speak to the council? Asked Potema as dinner was served. I don't know if I will, said Magnus. I don't believe I have anything to say. I'll speak to them when they announce the coronation of Kintira, said Sepphoris, merely as a formality to show my support and the support of Hammerfell. You can speak for all of Hammerfell, asked Potema with a teasing smile. The Red Guards must love you very much. We have a unique relationship with the Empire in Hammerfell, said Sepphoris' wife, Bianchi. Since the Treaty of Stros-Makai, it's been understood that we are part of the Empire, but not a subject. I understand you've already spoken to the Council, said Magnus's wife, Helena, pointedly. He was a diplomat by nature, but as the Cyrodiilic ruler of an Argonian kingdom, she knew how to recognize and confront adversity. Yes, I have, said Potema, pausing to savor a slice of braised Jalfbird. I gave them a short speech about the coronation this afternoon. Your sister is an excellent public speaker, said Sepphoris. You're too kind, said Potema, laughing. I do many things better than speaking. Such as? Asked Bianchi, smiling. But I ask what you said in your speech? Asked Magnus suspiciously. There was a knock on the chamber door. The head steward whispered something to Potema, who smiled in response and rose from the table. I told the council that I would give my full support to the coronation, provided they proceed with wisdom. What could be sinister about that? Potema said, and took her glass of wine with her to the door. If you'll pardon me, my niece Kintira wishes to have a word with me. Kintira stood in the hall with the Imperial Guard. She was but a child, but on reflection, Potema realized that at her age she was already married 2 years to Mantyarco. There was a similarity, to be certain. Potema could see Kintira as the young queen, with dark eyes and pallid skin, smooth and resolute like marble. Anger flashed momentarily in Kintira's eyes on seeing her aunt, but emotion left her, replaced with calm, imperial presence. Queen Potema, he said serenely, I have been informed that my coronation will take place in 2 days' time. Your presence at the ceremony will not be welcome. I've already given orders to your servants to have your belongings packed, and an escort to be accompanying you back to your kingdom tonight. That is all. Goodbye, Aunt. Potema began to reply, but Kintira and her guard turned and moved back down the corridor to the stateroom. The Wolf Queen watched them go and then re-entered the mat room. Sister-in-law, said Potema, addressing Bianchi with deep malevolence, you asked what I do better than speaking? The answer is war. Okay, so I need The Wolf Queen, Volume 6. Let me see if there's a guide to where to find it. I bet the guards took it from me. That one time. That one time where I went quietly. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna go buy it from Ragro Shub.
I'm always on the lookout for all sorts of goods. Bring me whatever you...
Archmage or not, my rules about books still stand.
What have you got for sale? Oh, have you made any progress translating Shalador's work?
We were able to figure out the last text you brought in. I thought the least I could do is pass the knowledge along.
Okay, what have you got for sale?
Please make sure your hands are clean before touching anything, all right?
Okay. Oh, yeah, okay. Oh boy. Okay, so he doesn't actually... Alright, I'm gonna buy a bunch of books. I've got a ton of money, so it's not really an issue. Okay, I'm gonna load it.
Until next time.
Okay. Okay. E120. The 15-year-old Empress Kintira Septim II, daughter of Antiochus, was coronated on the third day of First Seed. Her uncles Magnus, king of Lilmoth, and Sepphoris, king of Ghilain, were in attendance, but her aunt, Potema, the Wolf Queen of Solitude, had been banished from the court. Once back in her kingdom, Queen Potema began assembling the rebellion, which was to be known as the War of the Red Diamond. All the allies she had made over the years of disgruntled kings and nobles joined forces with her against the new empress. The first early strikes against the empire were entirely successful. Throughout Skyrim and northern High Rock, the imperial army found themselves under attack. Potema and her forces washed over Tamriel like a plague, inciting riots and insurrections everywhere they touched. In the autumn of the year, the loyal Duke of Glenpoint on the coast of High Rock sent an urgent request for reinforcements from the imperial army. Kintira, to inspire the resistance of the Wolf Queen, led the army herself. 3E121. We don't know where they are, said the Duke, deeply embarrassed. I've sent scouts out all over the countryside. I can only assume they've retreated up north upon hearing of your army's arrival. I hate to say it, but I was hoping for a battle, said Kintira. I'd like to put my aunt's head on a spike and parade it around the empire. Her son Uriel and his army are right on the border to the imperial province, mocking me. How are they able to be so How are they able to be so successful? Are they just that good in battle, or do my subjects truly hate me? She was tired after many months of struggling through the mud of autumn and winter. Crossing the Dragontail Mountains, her army nearly marched into an ambush. A blizzard snap in the normally temperate barony of Dwynnon was so unexpected and severe that it must certainly have been cast by one of Potema's wizard allies. Everywhere she turned, she felt her aunt's touch, and now her chance at facing the Wolf Queen at last had been thwarted. It was almost too much to bear. It is fear, pure and simple, said the Duke. That is her greatest weapon. I need to ask, said Kintira, hoping that by sheer will she could keep her voice from revealing any of the fear the Duke spoke of. You've seen the army. Is it true that she has summoned a force of undead warriors to do her bidding? No, as a matter of fact, it's not true, but she certainly fosters that rumor. Her army attacks at night, partly for strategic reasons and partly to advance fears. Like that. She has, so far as I know, no supernatural aid other than the standard battle mages and night blades of any modern army. Always at night, said Kintira thoughtfully. I suppose that's to disguise their numbers. And to move her troops into position before they're aware of them, added the Duke. She's the master of the sneak attack. When you hear a march to the east, you can be certain she's already on top of you from the south. But listen, we'll discuss this all tomorrow morning. I've prepared the castle's best rooms for you and your men. Kintira sat in her tower suite, and by the light of the moon and a single tallow candle she penned a letter to her husband-to-be, Lord Medellis, back in the imperial city. She hoped to be married to him in the summer at the Blue Palace. Her grandmother, Quintilla, had loved so much. But though the war... She hoped to be married to him in the summer at the Blue Palace her mother Quintilla had loved so much, but thought the war may not have permitted it. As she wrote, she gazed out the window at the courtyard below, at the haunted, leafless trees of winter. Two of her guards stood on the battlements, several feet away from one another, just like Medellis and Kintira, she thought, and proceeded to expound on the metaphor in her letter. A knock on the door interrupted her poetry. A letter, your Majesty, from Lord Medellis, said the young courier, handing the note to her. It was short, and she read it quickly before the courier had a chance to retire. I'm confused by something. When did he write this? 1 week ago, said the courier. He said it was urgent that I make it here as quickly as possible, while he mobilized the army. I imagine they've left the city already. Kintira dismissed the courier. Medellis said that he had received a letter from her, urgently calling for reinforcements to the battle at Glenpoint. But there was no battle at Glenpoint, and she had only just arrived today. Then who wrote the letter in her handwriting, and why would they want Medellis to bring a second army out of the imperial city into High Rock? Feeling a chill from the night air at the window, Kintira went to shut the latch. The two guards on the battlements were gone. She leaned over at the sound of the muffled struggle behind one of the barren trees and did not hear the door open. When she turned, she saw Queen Potema and Menton, Duke of Glenpoint, in the room with a host of guards. You move quietly, Aunt, she said after a moment's pause. She turned to the Duke. What turned you against your loyalty to the Empire? Fear? And gold, said the Duke simply. What happened to my army? Asked Kintira, trying to look Potema steadily in the face. Is the battle over so soon? All your men are dead, smiled Potema, But there was no battle here, merely quiet and efficient assassination. There will be battles ahead, against Modellus in the Dragontail Mountains, and against the remnants of the Imperial army in the city. I'll send you regular updates on the progress of the war. So I am to be kept here, as your hostage? Asked Kintira flatly, suddenly aware of the solidity of the stones and the great height of her tower room. Damn you, look at me! I am your empress! Think of it this way. I'm taking you from being a fifth-rate ruler to a first-rate martyr, said Potema with a wink. But I understand if you don't want to thank me for that. Book 7. The exact date of the Empress Kintira Septim II's execution in the tower at Glenpoint Castle is open to some speculation. Some believe she was slain shortly after her imprisonment in the 121st year, while others maintain that she was likely kept alive as a hostage until shortly before her uncle Sepphoris, king of Ghislaine, reconquered western High Rock in the summer of the 125th year. The certainty of Kintira's demise rallied many against the Wolf Queen, Potema, and her son, who had been crowned Emperor Uriel Septim III 4 years previously when he invaded the underguarded imperial city. Sepphoris concentrated his army in the War of High Rock, where his brother Magnus, king of Lilmoth, brought his Argonian troops through loyal Morrowind and into Skyrim to fight in Potema's home province. The reptilian troops fought well in the summer months, but during the winter they retired south to regroup and attack again when the weather was warm. At this stalemate, the war lasted out 2 more years. Also, in the 125th year, Magnus's wife Helena gave birth to their first child, a boy who they named Pelagius, after the emperor who fathered Magnus, Sepphoris, the late Emperor Antiochus, and the dread wolf queen of Solitude. By the dread wolf, Potema sat on soft silk cushions in the warm grass in front of her tent and watched the sun rise over the dark woods on the other side of the meadow. It was a particularly vibrant morning, typical of Skyrim's summertime. The high chirrup of insects buzzed all around her, and the sky surged with thousands of following birds. It says fallowing. The only thing I know about fallow is, like, let me see. See the definition of fallowing here. It doesn't make sense in context. It's probably supposed to be following birds, rolling over one another and forming a multitude of patterns. Nature was unaware of the war coming to Falconstar, she surmised. Your Highness, a message from the army in Hammerfell, said one of her maids, bringing in a courier. He was breathing hard, stained with sweat and mud, evidence of a long, fast ride over many, many miles. My queen, said the courier, looking to the ground, I bring grave news of your son the Emperor. He met your brother, King Sepphoris' army, in Hammerfall, in the countryside of Ishidag, and there they did battle. You would be proud, for he fought well. But in the end, the Imperial army was defeated, and your son, the Emperor, was captured. King Sepphoris is bringing him to Ghislaine. Potema listened to the news, scowling. Clumsy fool, she said at last. Potema stood up and strolled into camp, where the men were arming themselves, preparing for battle. Long ago, the soldiers understood that their lady did not stand on ceremony, and she would prefer that they work rather than salute her. Lord Voken was ahead of her, already meeting with the commander of the battle mages, discussing the last-minute strategy. My queen, said the courier who had been following her, what are you going to do? I'm going to win this battle with Magnus, despite his superior position holding the ruins of Cogmenthist Castle. Cogmenthist Castle, said Potema, and then when I know what Sepphoris means to do with the Emperor, I'll respond accordingly. If there's a ransom to be paid, I'll pay it. If there's a prison exchange needed, so be it. Now please bathe yourself and rest, and try not to get in the way of the war. It's not an ideal scenario, said Lord Voken when Potema had entered the commander's tent. If we attack the castle from the west, that will be running directly into the fire from their mages and archers. If we come from the east, we'll be going through swamps, and the Argonians do better in that type of environment than we do. A lot better. What about the north and south? Just hills, correct? Very steep hills, Highness, said the commander. We should post. Okay. I don't know who said what about the north and south. I don't know if that was Potema or not. Very steep hills, Your Highness, said the commander. We should post bowmen there, but we'll be too vulnerable, putting out the majority of our force. So it's the swamp, said Potema, and added pragmatically, unless we withdraw and wait for them to come out before fighting. If we wait, Sepphoris will have his army here from High Rock, and we'll be trapped between the two of them, said Lord Vulcan. Not a preferable situation. I'll talk to the troops, said the commander. Try to prepare them for the swamp attack. No, said Potema. I'll speak to them. In full battle gear, the soldiers gathered in the center of camp. They were a motley collection of men and women, Cyrodiils, Nords, Bretons, and Dunbar, young bloods and old veterans, the sons and daughters of nobles, shopkeepers, serfs, priests, prostitutes, farmers, academics, adventurers, all of them under the banner of the Red Diamond, the symbol of the imperial family of Tamriel. My children, Potema said, her voice ringing out, hanging in the still morning mist. We have fought in many battles together over mountaintops and beachheads, through forests and deserts. I've seen great acts of valor from each one of you, which does my heart proud. I've also seen dirty fighting, backstabbing, cruel and wanton feats of savagery which please me equally well, for you are all warriors. Warming to her theme, Potema walked the line from soldier to soldier, looking each one in the eye. War is in your blood, in your brain, in your muscles, in everything you think and everything you do. When this war is over, when the forces are vanquished that seek to deny the throne to the true Emperor Uriel the III, you may cease to be warriors. You may choose to return to your lives before the war, to your farms and your cities, and show off your scars, and tell tales of the deeds you did this day to your wondering neighbors. But on this day, make no mistake, you are warriors. You are war. She could see her words were working. All around her, bloodshot eyes were focusing on the slaughter to come, arms tensing around weapons. She continued in her loudest cry, and you will move throughout the swamplands like an unstoppable power from the blackest part of oblivion, and you will rip the scales from the reptilian things in Caldwinthis Castle. You are warriors, and you need not only fight, you must win. You must win. Soldiers roared in response, shocking the birds from the trees all around the camp. From a vantage point on the hills to the south, Potema and Lord Vulcan had excellent views of the battle as it raged. It looked like two swarms of two colors of insect, moving back and forth over a clump of dirt, which was the castle ruins. Occasionally a burst of flame or a cloud of acid from one of the mages would flicker over the battle, arresting their attention, but hour after hour, the fighting seemed like nothing but chaos. A rider approaches, said Lord Vulcan, breaking the silence. The young Redguard woman was wearing the crest of Ghislaine, but carried a white flag. Potema allowed her to approach. Like the courier from the morning, the rider was well travel-worn. Your Highness, she said, out of breath, I have been sent from your brother, my lord King Sepphoris, to bring you dire news. Your son, Uriel, was captured in Ichidag on the field of battle, and from there transported to Ghislaine. I know all this, said Potema scornfully. I have couriers of my own. I can tell your master that after I've won this battle, I pay whatever ransom or exchange. Your Highness, an angry crowd met the caravan your son was in before it made it to Ghislaine. The rider said quickly, Your son is dead. He has been burned to death within his carriage. He is dead. Potema turned from the young woman and looked down at the battle. Her soldiers were going to win. Magnus's army was in retreat. One other item of news, Your Highness, said the rider. King Sepphoris is being proclaimed Emperor. Potema did not look at the woman. Her army was already celebrating their victory. Volume 8. I'm going to finish this out. Following the Battle of Ichidok, the Emperor Uriel the Septim III was captured, and before he was able to be brought to his uncle's castle in the Hammerfell kingdom of Ghislain, he met his death at the hands of an angry mob. His uncle Sepphoris was therefore proclaimed emperor and rode to the imperial city. Troops formerly loyal to Emperor Uriel and his mother, the Wolf Queen Potema, pledged themselves to the new emperor. In return for their support, the nobility of Skyrim, High Rock, Hammerfell, and Somerset Isle, Valenwood, Blackmarsh, and Morrowind demanded and received a new level of autonomy and independence from the Empire. The War of the Red Diamond was at an end. Potema continued to fight a losing battle, her area of influence dwindling until only her kingdom of Solitude remained in her power. She summoned Daedra to fight for her, had her necromancers resurrect her fallen enemies as undead warriors, and mounted attack after attack on the forces of her brothers, the Emperor Sepphoris Septim I and King Magnus of Lilmoth. Her allies began leaving her as her madness grew, and her only companions were the zombies and skeletons she had amassed over the years. The kingdom of Solitude became a land of death. Stories of the ancient Wolf Queen being waited on by rotting skeletal chambermaids and holding war plans with vampiric generals terrified her subjects. Magnus opened up the small window in his room. For the first time in weeks he heard the sounds of a city. Carts squeaking, horses clopping over the cobblestones, and somewhere a child laughing. He smiled as he returned to his bedside to wash his face and finish dressing. There was a distinctive knock on the door. "Come in, pal," he said. Pelagius bounded into the room. It was obvious that he had been up for hours. Magnus marveled at his energy and wondered how much longer battles would last if they were run by 12-year-old boys. "Did you see outside yet?" Pelagius asked. "All the townspeople have come back. There's shops and a mages guild. And down by the harbor I saw 100 ships come in from all over the place." "They don't have to be afraid anymore. We've taken care of all the zombies and ghosts that used to be their neighbors, and they know it's safe to come back." "Is Uncle Sepphoris going to turn into a zombie when he dies?" asked Pelagius. "I wouldn't put that past him," laughed Magnus. "Why do you ask?" "I heard some people saying that he was old and sick," said Pelagius. "He's not that old," said Magnus. "He's 60 years old. That's just 2 years older than I." "And how old is Aunt Potema?" asked Pelagius. 70, said Magnus. "And yes, that is old. Any more questions will have to wait. I have to go meet with the commander now, but we can talk at supper. You can make yourself busy and not get into any trouble?" "Yes, sir," said Pelagius. He understood that his father had to continue to hold siege on Aunt Potema's castle. After they took it over and locked her up, they'd move out of the inn and into the castle. Pelagius was not looking forward to that. The whole town had a funny, sweet, dead smell, but he could not get even as close as the castle moat without gagging from the stench. They could dump 1,000,000 flowers in the place, it wouldn't make it any different. He walked through the city for hours, buying some food and then some ribbons for his sister and mother back in Lilmoth. He thought about who else he needed to buy gifts for and was stumped. All his cousins, the children of Uncle Sepphoris, Uncle Antiochus, and Aunt Potema, had died during the war. Some of them in battle and some of them during the famines because so many crops had been burned. Aunt Bianchi had died last year. It was only he, his mother, his sister, his father, and his uncle the emperor left. And Aunt Potema, but she didn't really count. When he came upon the Mages Guild earlier that morning, he decided not to go in. Those places always spooked him with their strange smoke and crystals and old books. This time it occurred to Pelagius that he might buy a gift for Uncle Sepphoris, a souvenir of Solitude's Mages Guild. An old woman was having trouble with the front door, so Pelagius opened it for her. "Thank you," she said. She was easily the oldest thing he'd ever seen. Her face looked like an old rotted apple framed with a wild world of bright white hair. He instinctively moved away from her gnarled talon when she started to pat him on the head, but there was a gem around her neck that immediately fascinated him. It was a single bright yellow jewel, but it almost looked there was something trapped within. When the light hid it from the candles, it brought out the form of a 4-legged beast, pacing. "It's a soul gem," she said, "infused with the spirit of a great demon werewolf. It was enchanted long, long ago with the power to charm people, but I've been thinking about giving it another spell. Perhaps something from the school of alteration, like lock or shield." She paused and looked at the boy carefully with yellowed, rheumy eyes. "You look familiar to me, boy. What's your name?" "Pelagius," he he said. He normally would have said Prince Pelagius, but he was told not to draw attention to himself while in town. I used to know someone named Pelagius, the old woman said, and slowly smiled. Are you here alone, Pelagius? My father is with the army, storming the castle, but he'll be back when the walls have been breached. Which I dare say won't take too much longer, sighed the old woman. Nothing, no matter how built, tends to last. Are you buying something in the Mages Guild? I wanted to buy a gift for my uncle, said Pelagius, but I don't know if I have enough gold. The old woman left the boy to look over the wares while she went to the guild enchanter. He was a young Nord, ambitious and new to the kingdom of Solitude. It took little persuasion and a lot of gold to convince him to remove the charm spell from the soul gem and imbue it with a powerful curse, a slow poison that would drain wisdom from its wearer year after year until he or she lost all reason. She also purchased a cheap ring of fire resistance. For your kindness to an old woman, I've brought you these, she said, giving the boy the necklace and the ring. You can give the ring to your uncle and tell him it has been enchanted with a levitation spell, so if he ever needs to leap from high places, it will protect him. The soul gem is for you. Thank you, said the boy, but this is too kind of you. Kindness has nothing to do with it, she answered quite honestly. You see, I was in the Hall of Records at the Imperial Palace once or twice, and I read about you in the foretellings of the Elder Scrolls. You will be Emperor one day, my boy, the Emperor Pelagius Septim III. And with this soul gem to guide you, posterity will always remember you and your deeds. With those words, the old woman disappeared down an alley behind the Mages Guild. Pelagius looked after her, but he did not think to search behind a heap of stones. If he had, he would have found a tunnel under the city to the very heart of Castle Solitude, and if he had found his way there, he would have found past the shambling undead and the mouldering remains of a once palace, the bedroom of the queen. In that bedroom, the Wolf Queen of Solitude in repose, listening to the sounds of her castle collapsing, and he would see a toothless grin growing on her face as she breathed her last. From the pen of Inzolicus, 2nd century sage. SC 137. Fatima Septim died after a month-long siege on her castle. While she lived, she had been the Wolf Queen of Solitude, daughter of the Emperor Pelagius II, wife of King Montiarco, aunt of the Empress Quintira II, mother of Emperor Uriel III, and sister of the Emperors Antiochus and Sepphoris. At her death, Magnus appointed his son Pelagius as the titular head of Solitude, under guidance from the Royal Council. 3E140. The Emperor Sepphoris Septim died after falling from his horse. His brother was proclaimed the Emperor Magnus Septim. 3E141. Pelagius, King of Solitude, is recorded as occasionally eccentric. In the imperial annals, he marries Cataria, Duchess of Vardenfell. 3E145. The Emperor Magnus Septim dies. His son, who will be known as Pelagius the Mad, is coronated. And without him, there'd be no Wabbajack. So in the end, wasn't it all worth it?